Hello comrades, and welcome to another less than 10-minute review. Today I bring you Chernobylite. Chernobylite is a first-person survival horror RPG set in the hyper-realistic and 3D scanned wasteland of Chernobyl's exclusion zone. But what does that all mean? It means it's a damn good game. Let's get into it. And if you couldn't tell by the tone of my voice, spoiler alert, this is a definite buy it now in my opinion, and here's why. Graphics, sound, and art style. As aforementioned, the setting of this place is a 3D scanned rendition of Chernobyl, and not to sound terribly pretentious, but there's truly beauty in destruction. I haven't been impressed as much by the ambiance of the game in a long time. It was only then that I realized the horror in which I was standing in. You see, because in April 26, 1986, a nuclear accident destroyed the lives of countless people, instantly killing thousands and others feeling those effects years later. To be in the very same setting that was evacuated is downright chilling. The voice acting is phenomenal. The default setting is in Russian, and don't get me wrong, I'm a dubs, not a subs guy, but the authenticity of the actors is bar none. Sorry, I was not a fan of the English voice actors. It just sounded wrong.
Haven't you?
A much smaller fragment, but enough for my initial studies.
Are you going to tell me how this fancy gun of yours works?
Игорь, ты как тут так? Ух ты, боже мой!
Мы еле ушли живыми. Похоже, противогазы бракованы.
Я прямо с ног валюсь. Оставь меня!
Пойдем со мной на базу. Ты только не пугайся, ладно?
Gameplay. A first-person survival RPG, but what does that mean exactly? Well, you take on the role of Igor Khemnik, a seemingly mentally unstable Ukrainian physicist in search of his wife, Tatiana, 30 years after the disaster. Haunted by her photograph, he decides to head back to Chernobyl's exclusion zone to unravel a conspiracy that saw his wife go missing shortly before the disaster. But to infiltrate such a place, Igor hires a few mercenaries to help him on his quest. Along the way, you will recruit others to fight against the corruption. You take refuge in a warehouse where your base of operation begins. You're in charge of clearing a warehouse and building beds, generators, vegetations, etc., to make your life and those you recruit easier. Think of the Fallout 4 colony building concept. Only you can send those recruits on missions to retrieve food, ammunition, resources, medicine, or have them rest. The equipment they have, plus the area of expertise, will have them be more successful in certain missions than others. Each day you can delegate what your recruits will do and where you're going. In true Ukrainian stalker fashion, you stealthily go around with a gun fueled by Chernobylite, a strange material that appeared after the disaster that seems to be a dark and powerful source. Your gun can rip through the fabric of reality and open up wormholes to anywhere where Igor chooses. Each area has a semi-open world of its own, full of resources littered around. A task easy made by the environmental analyzer built in with a Geiger counter. Activating it will let you know any resources around you, such as herbs, electronic parts, ammo, medicine, or anything else that can be useful. In Chernobylite, Igor will go through a moral dilemma that will mess with his psyche, and that is killing others. See, because in this game you are simply a physician, not a mercenary. Killing others takes a chunk of your psyche, and that makes you more vulnerable to seeing things, or obstructions to your view. Of course, drinking alcohol or taking medication or eating a soup made of mushrooms will ease your mind. And one of your recruits can teach you a non-lethal way of taking down enemies that won't mess with your mind. But that's only after spending 2 skill points. And fortunately for you, those skill points gather pretty quickly, because anything that you do in this world will help you acquire more skill points. Radiation is a factor in the game. There are plenty of warning signs anywhere where radiation could be a lot stronger. Thankfully, the Geiger counter on your analyzer helps a lot with that too. And anti-radiation medicine or mushrooms, again, can help. Price, $29.99 USD. How many hours estimated? I'm only about 6 hours in, but I know that is well worth the entry price of $30 USD. Final thoughts. Imagine, if you will, a AA company that puts out a $30 game that has twice the amount of content that a AAA company will have. Ode to joy, the resurgence of the single-player game without microtransactions, without any of the bullshit of today's market. It's almost non-existent, but it lives on in Chernobylite. I mean, besides the fact that the White Rose pack that Chernobylite sells for about $4, it seems to be free of that nasty trend, and I love it for it. But the game material, the game source is what I love the most. Having to navigate through this world, finding resources, answering calls from mysterious people, just as determined as you to take down the corruption, everything just comes together wonderfully in a great narrative sense. I love the fact that Igor is just a regular person, not some action superhero, and through perks and learning how to do things from his recruits, he improves. Trying to clue in what happened to his wife to take down this corrupt establishment. I haven't been immersed in a universe like this in a long time. But my only gripe with this game is that it is advertised as a horror game. There were a few jump scares that kind of got me. I don't want to give it up, but there's a scene where you find a couple of dolls and the TV is playing. They're all positioned to watch the TV, and if you get close enough, the TV, everything turns off, and that sense of dread overcomes you. And wow, that was atmospheric and it was great. But then it tries this thing, the main villain, and I don't want to give too much away from this, but is a Nemesis, Mr. X type of villain called the Black Stalker. And there are some ghoulies or something that comes out of portals from wormholes when there's too much Chernobylite in a certain setting. And I mean, that's not really that scary. They just kind of flash in front of you and you just shoot them. It's those type of moments that I didn't really enjoy, but overall the game is just strong. And it doesn't take anything away from it other than because whenever you do kill these things, these beings, they drop pretty good loot. But for real, I cannot wait to go back and really delve deep into it. Is Chernobylite worth a buy? Like I said in the beginning, hell yes it is. Buy it now.